Awesome. So I think we're live now. Thank you so much, Eddy Travia, the co-founder and CEO of Coinsilium, to take out time today for the audience to speak on
No
NFTs
problem.
and how NFTs are changing the world at the moment. We've seen this in 2017 bull cycles with CryptoKitties, and now again where the metaverse is being developed and the cryptoverse is being developed on the digital spectrum. We're seeing so many innovations and so many also improvement proposals being passed in terms of how to deal with these, NFTs. So I'm looking forward to a really good conversation with you, Eddy, and to learn, whatever you have to say and share. Can we start off with a bit of a background and introduction of who Startup Eddy really is? Everyone, the whole world knows you. You have them startup, I'm sure. So can we have a little bit of background on Eddy and your venture now with Consilium, which has been going on for the last couple of years?
Yes, even longer. I mean, I'm originally from France, but I moved to Asia in 2004. I started traveling in Asia in 1999, but I moved to Asia in 2004. In the late 90s, I was following all the internet startups of the time. I was an internet entrepreneur as well at the time, and it was very exciting. And when I discovered Bitcoin in 2012, I felt a bit of this excitement as well. There was reminiscent of the internet years. A small community at first, as we know, and everyone almost an advocate or evangelist of Bitcoin or blockchain came a bit later, really as a buzzword. Before that, I was doing private equity in Asia, out of Hong Kong mainly. So when I discovered Bitcoin, I was not, let's say, only focused on the cryptocurrency side. I was also interested by the ecosystem of startups, and that's why I guess I chose that Twitter ID back then, because I really wanted to help entrepreneurs in the space, and entrepreneurs are basically the same issues as they usually have when they create a company. Lack of capital, lack of time, a lot of pressure from many sides. But I guess in the Bitcoin space, there were a few more barriers. Banks didn't want to open accounts. Regulation was an issue. It was a bit controversial. So a bit like the internet in the very early years, where people thought it was really for only let's say bad things in a way. So Bitcoin really had a bad name even in 2013, and obviously a few exchange hacks didn't help, but still it was very exciting. We organized the first ever conference in Asia in November 2013 in Singapore, and we had a lot of the pioneers, let's say, in the space. And then I was working, and I co-founded this incubator for Bitcoin startups, and that led me to meeting my current partners in London, and we decided to list a company in London to bring some legitimacy to the whole industry and to our company as well, of course. So we did that in December 2015. So now we have been listed on a stock exchange since that time, and we're also listed in the US on the OTC markets in New York. So we have been investing first, and then through the ICO hype cycle, we have been advising like $500 million of ICOs. And lately, we changed our focus. We changed our positioning. We moved into more venture building, and the sectors we chose last year were DeFi and NFTs. DeFi, I wrote a paper in June, July 2020 about my own take on DeFi, and NFTs, nothing really published, but we launched a proof of concept a few months ago for a stamp called the Gibraltar cryptocurrency stamp, and we have set up now Nifty Labs, which is an NFT tech studio development in Gibraltar, along with a partner called Indoors. Indoors are both in Singapore and in London.
Awesome. That's a lot to take in. But so let's start off. Obviously, first of all, I'd like to say best of luck to you in terms of Nifty and endorse as projects, and hope they achieve the goals that they set out to do. And
Thank you.
moving on, Eddie, you've been in Hong Kong, and the whole APAC region where art you know art moves a lot. So like how have you seen this whole change in the NFT space, and what kind of as you're already a kind of a master influencer on various platforms such as LinkedIn and others. When did you start being vocal about NFTs? When did you realize that they eventually had the power to change, a few things in the media entertainment or any other segment or art industry? And when did that shift happen first? And then when did you start being vocal about it? And in what context, are you
Yeah,
vocal today?
sure. So first of all, I mean, I obviously NFT and art are now very much intertwined, but originally I was looking at NFT, I would say in general as a new crypto asset, a new form of crypto asset that could be used for any kind of unique asset, like for example, financial instruments as well, not only art. But I would guess it tied into my research around DeFi, and in DeFi I was looking at what I call coded income, and actually at the same time, so in the summer last year, I started being much more involved in NFTs. I had a lot of discussions with entrepreneurs. One of them I know well because we've worked together for a while in Asia. He's based in Singapore. He's a chief strategy officer of Minty. It's an art NFT platform, but the specific take on that is a new form of patronage. I mean, being European, we have been, I guess, in the early years of education, we have been quite exposed to patronage through Renaissance and all the Italian and French patrons of art. So we I guess we may have a little bit of a cultural background that leads into that. Uh, I like that a lot because I think artists are definitely not only in need to sell art, once it's done, but they also need financing before that is done. So we were talking with an artist in France called P Boy, and he created a Chapel Sistine in an old gold foundry, a disaffected gold foundry in the suburbs of Paris, and he created a massive work of art that took him 6 months to draw. And so he was starting it. We were talking to him at that time. That was in summer 2020 last year, and he explained to us what were the issues, the logistics issues about getting digital assets paid for from patrons, and that was very interesting, and that led Yassine to work on this platform called Minty.art. So at the time I was looking at multiple angles. So patronage, which is a kind of crowdfunding, obviously in today's terms, empowering artists. The fact that, and I guess most people know that today, but the fact that secondary sales also benefit to the creator of the NFTs, that's great. That's another way to empower artists throughout the life cycle of the piece, which obviously is not the case in the physical world.
Yeah.
Yeah, giving a new voice to artists, I guess, in that world, and something that we can talk about later, but I can introduce now. I guess one of my main points or at least reflection points in the space of NFTs is a new relationship with wealth, and a new relationship with what digital wealth is no longer. I mean, for people in the crypto space, I guess it's no longer only owning crypto such as Bitcoin,
Exactly.
Ether, and so forth. Crypto
Yeah.
digital wealth becomes owning NFTs today.
Absolutely. So being being in Hong Kong and in regions in China, Japan, mostly Southeast Asia, we've been super into games, right? Like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Japan and China were have been always kind of one step ahead in terms of the gaming industry.
Mhm.
And how do you see the digital cryptoverse to evolve in terms of NFTs, and what all things that exist today as digital medium, as digital assets, or anything digitally, including your identity, including the things that you do online. As soon as you enter into that virtual sphere, as soon as and we're always connected in the virtual sphere, if you wanted to, so how do you see what all things being having intrinsic value on top of this virtual world, and what all things come into your mind, and how will they be kind of used by us in, let's say, the next 3 to 4 years, or in the age of AR and VR? Do you think NFTs are like a step before AR and VR, and would it be would it be valuable? Would it have intrinsic value over there, and in what form and shape?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, very interestingly, since I've been in the crypto space, intrinsic value has been a topic for many years. I mean, the first topics, of course, was around Bitcoin. Does Bitcoin have intrinsic value? Why is it valued $100, and now why is it valued, $58,000? So that's always been a very interesting question. And I guess today, I think most people agree that value is mainly a social construct, and as long as somebody accepts the value that you giving, I guess collectively we value
Yeah.
Bitcoin at that price. There is a demand for it. There are other models like the stock to flow models and so forth. But
Yeah.
I guess the in terms of the NFTs, I think one of the key values is the technology itself and the impact it's going to have on our lives. You mentioned AR and VR, and I agree. And I think the way NFT is surprising us is the fact that it actually has become this conduit to mass adoption that we all thought would come from other applications. We thought remittances were going to be the conduit for mass adoption in crypto. We thought,
Yeah.
payments of some kind. And now we realize it's actually something much closer to us. Art and games and
Exactly.
experiences is
Yeah.
much closer to us than actually just paying something. So
Absolutely.
so I think I agree, but again, I wouldn't worry about. I mean, of course, I don't want to say that in a kind of a light-hearted way, but I
Yeah.
think the value of this crypto and the value of these NFTs is not that important. I think people make the mistake of associating a bubble of value, which has always existed, and obviously in art as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
to something that cannot be really in a bubble, which is the actual technology. And the actual
Absolutely.
technology is the underlying technology. I mean, my feeling is we're going to go into a space where NFTs become, let's say, ridiculously easy to mint and ridiculously easy to transfer and to work with. And when
Yeah.
that happens, the price
Yeah.
won't be a problem.
Absolutely, absolutely, Eddie. Yesterday we had a few sessions, and one of them was on NFTs as well, and someone really shared this idea, and I kind of cross questioned as well. What, even in generic art, auctions, all right, they could be people could be colluding together, and then kind of raising up about an art prize, and then to be sold to the next man, like who for example, like if we were going into an auction, and then Eddie was auctioning his art, and
Mhm.
you had like me, Abby, and everyone else from the Incrypted team, for example, bid
Mhm.
and get into a colluding bid war, and then hiking the price up to an X amount, and then getting it sold, although we are in the same team, and
Mhm.
then going into the secondary market and saying that, oh, this was bought at 10 million, and now we got it at bargain. Eddie has whatever XYZ problem, he's willing to let it go, or I have an XYZ problem, and then I'm willing to
Mhm.
let it go at $9 million or whatever, and then it gets sold in that secondary market as a. So this hype price, all right, what makes the current NFT market, like, in which is completely run through a trustless manner and system. How do we not there could be collusion. People could be colluding right now on decentralized marketplaces with anonymous or pseudonymous identities,
Yeah.
and raising up the price to a certain extent. A picture
Yeah.
which doesn't say anything and doesn't say 1,000 words can be sold at 5 ETH just because other bids are coming at 3.8 and 3.9 and 4.1, and the other, someone in just can be caught in FOMO, to be very honest, and then end up paying a huge sum of price in that colluding war, bid war. So,
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
thoughts on that, and any thoughts how we can mature the market towards that sentiment as well?
Sure. I mean, I very early on, I always loved, historical books, and I read a lot of about, for example, I don't know if you know this author from Italy called Umberto Eco. He wrote Name of the Rose and so forth. Very interestingly, if you look at the history of let's say this is a medieval times. So, okay, if you look at medieval times, there was a huge market in Europe for fake religious artifacts.
Yeah.
So people thought they were buying, I don't know, the Jesus Christ. I know the words in French. I don't know in English, but let's say a cloth or some kind that belonged to Jesus, or something that is related to a saint, right? And that was actually a very important form of currency in the Middle Ages in Europe. And I'm pretty sure there was a lot of collusion and a lot of and obviously they were all fake. I mean, so my feeling is what you're describing has nothing to do with NFTs. What you're describing has to do with our humanity playing a game which has always been played, which is a game of tricking, which is a game of uh, fake art and fake assets and fake value.
Correct. Any
So
measure
yeah,
that
in
we
that
can take
sense,
to any measure
not
that
a
we
real
can
issue.
any measure that we can take as I'm sure that you are also involved with people who are working on improvement proposals and using extensions of the your standards that are laid down for NFTs at the moment. Any while talking to them, anything goes off in this kind of a mindset where we could kind of stop or prevent so certain things like this to happen in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
get
I
at the
mean, it's
get
yeah. I
at the
mean, it's sure, sure. I mean, it's a young, immature industry. I mean, crypto and blockchain are, but obviously NFTs even more because it's even more recent. One thing that people don't really realize is exactly what do you buy when you buy an NFT, and also they don't necessarily know where is the image that they've bought, or the soundtrack, or the actual asset. And so there is at Nifty Labs we are working with Indoors, and they have devised a browser plugin which currently is compatible with OpenSea. It's called Nifty Scanner. It's
yeah
kind of a first product out there for that, and it basically goes and look at the metadata
yeah
of the NFT, and will
yeah
tell you if where is the image. Is it on a Amazon cloud, Amazon server, which could
yeah
be shut down anytime? Is it on IPFS? Is it on the blockchain itself, which some project like I think Avastars or Hashmask are actually doing.
yeah
And the other thing is looking at is, it doesn't really certify, the provenance, but it's looking at the kind of the on-chain spectrum, kind of the decentralized, aspect of the NFT, and it's also telling you very simple things like, has the contract been verified on Etherscan, which you think is kind of a given, but then when you look at the top, I don't know, 10, 20 NFTs in value, many of them are actually not on chain. Many of them don't have the
resource
Etherscan,
yeah
smart contract verified. So that's one example of a tool that can be used in that sense. And people, of course, need education and need to understand what do they buy when they buy an NFT, because they can wake up one morning and they cannot find the image anymore because it's on a server that has been
the resource has yeah
suspended.
yeah absolutely I think that this problem of on-chain storing of the NFT object itself from the metadata doesn't it just stores the URI and stores the token ID. So the resource wherever it is being hosted or deployed needs to be very well accounted for. And I think some chains are actually putting that into perspective, building it forward. Maybe I read it in Tezos or someone somewhere where they're trying to implement the chain that the resource is stored on chain as well. But as the resource gets more complex with time, the NFTs will mature towards the music industry, where they have to let's say store the MIDI setup, for example, or whatever, a little more complex segment. We'll need to have data storages, and I think which can store and be there, and never leave. The other thing, before we kind of close the session today, on this, a lot of artwork that is being sold, like you rightly pointed out, has been minted off a contract standard, which is not available on a different marketplace. So, how important do you feel that these newer marketplaces are coming on, but OpenSea and Rory, like they were like the early ones, with the surge of new ones coming with, kind of Mark Cuban getting into it,
Hmm.
a lot of people getting into the NFT space. There's going to be so many marketplaces, and then everyone fails to understand that if you mint NFT through a certain network, they might be using a standard which makes them host their NFTs in a particular environment, in a particular
Yeah.
framework, and then you'll have to actually port that or shift that, and that'll be another transaction cost, to do so, when they're trying to mint that. So, what kind of challenges are there while minting an NFT, and what should, like, anyone who is willing to mint an NFT, who's an artist from a background or a creator from a background, and wanting to mint an NFT, what should they be keeping in mind while doing so?
Yeah, interoperability between different blockchains and protocols has been an issue for a long time, and I guess in the crypto space, it's just getting solved these days. I mean, slowly, with different solutions. So with NFTs, I think the important thing is to look at, first of all, not everyone needs to mint an NFT straight away. I think people start to realize that,
Yeah.
gas fees have been quite expensive for a while. They're getting a little bit better maybe on certain blockchains, but regardless, it's still expensive to mint an NFT because it's usually a composition of a lot of different, it's a data-rich token, so it needs a lot of data. So yeah, it's quite expensive. So I would say don't rush into minting the NFT. Some platforms now advise to mint the NFTs when it's sold, basically. So at least you
Easy minting. Yeah.
yes, daisy minting. There are also some platforms that are kind of subsidizing the gas fees or finding a way to subsidize it. Maybe
There too. Yeah.
yeah. And of course, yeah, I also like the L2 solutions. I mean, one thing that we have a bit special in our Nifty Labs is that we're going to look at NFTs on Bitcoin. I mean, I know this is not common. The main reason is because Bitcoin is not known to be, a smart contract compatible in any way. But we have invested
Yeah.
early on in RSK, which is a technology that has developed smart contracts on Bitcoin, secured by Bitcoin through a kind of layer 2 Bitcoin called RBTC, and that way already NFTs exist on that solution on RSK, and it means that they can be paid in Bitcoin and they can be secured by the Bitcoin blockchain. So that's quite interesting, and we're going to work on that as well. We're going to kind of expand their ecosystem. So yes, I guess education, in crypto has always
Yeah.
been key. So people have
Absolutely.
to
Like,
look at the cost and
my
and do
my
their homework. Yeah.
absolutely correct. Education is key here, as you rightly said. And some people who had either earlier minted an NFT on Rari were then not able to move that on other marketplaces, and then there's a whole bottleneck of shifting your either going into an open framework where all the token IDs are basically being fetched from the API, so your data is available when you move your wallet towards a different platform. But there are so many confusions, and even like the APIs that currently were in the NFT space 2 months back, and then today there's a massive difference. But 2 months back they were completely raw in nature. Now a lot of money and a lot of development has been happening in the last 60 days. A lot of new platforms, Eddy, are coming up from India as well on the NFT space. As you know, India is big in entertainment media, and is also big in following the trend, in following others. So there's a lot of action happening in India. We'd love to stay connected, and I hope the whole team is connected. Whenever someone is looking for, consultation advisory on NFT, dealing with that, then we're definitely gonna, ask you for your advice. And thank you
Sure.
so much for, taking time out today and being with us. I hope we can
No problem.
learn more about different things that Coinsilium does in our future events. And thank you so much for
Sure.
spending the time. We're going to move on to the next session. So, any
Okay.
closing remarks,
Okay.
Eddy, that you have for everyone before we end the session?
Well, if everyone is interested, they can download the Nifty scanner, Chrome or well, multiple browser plugin, and it's currently working, as I said, compatible with OpenSea. We're going to have more news about this activity on Nifty Labs. People can follow Coinsilium Group on Twitter, and they can find also more information at coinsilium.com. And on the RSK side, because we also have a joint venture with them, they can look at iovlabs.org. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.